So it does seem like the one of the most objectionable parts of this S1 or HR1 is a federal takeover of a state responsibility in running elections.
No, that's right, and that's the bill that's passed the House and is now sitting in the Senate. And Chuck Schumer is doing everything he can to try to get it passed in the U.S. Senate, but they have a backup plan already in place. It's another bill called H.R. 4, and this one they're touting as an amendment to the Voting Rights Act because they believe that Republicans and others will therefore be afraid to oppose it because they'll be called racist. But what H.R. 4 does is, in essence, it would require what's called pre-clearance or pre-approval of any law that, for example, imposes an ID requirement. It makes changes in voter registration rules that changes the rules governing how states maintain the accuracy of their voter rolls and take people who are ineligible off. Any law or rule regulatory change like that, if you can believe this, it wouldn't be effective after a state legislature passes it and a state governor signs it into law until it has been submitted to the U.S. Justice Department. And the lawyers inside the Civil Rights Division have said, oh, yeah, this is okay. If they object to it, well, then the law can't be enforced.
Previously, some states that had bad records had to have their right. Congressional maps pre-cleared by DOJ. But so this would add to that list of things to be pre-cleared. But it does seem to me that once a legislature signs off on something and a governor signs it, I'm referring it to DOJ. I'm not sure that's how our system was set up.
Well, it wasn't at all. We're a federal system. Our state governments, look, this isn't France. In France, the provincial governments are just subsets of the federal government. The federal government has complete control over them. That's not the United States. Our state governments are independent sovereigns. And look, this is way beyond what used to be in the Voting Rights Act. You're right. You know, the Voting Rights Act used to have a provision that required what were the worst states in 1965. Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, places like that. Yeah, they had to get pre-approval of their changes in voting rules. The Supreme Court finally threw that out in 2013 because they said, look, conditions have changed. It's not 1965 anymore. This bill would not only bring back that coverage formula, but it wouldn't just affect a handful of states. Like I said, it creates this new thing. If you make any voting change anywhere in the country, you've got to get the pre-approval of the Justice Department. So they're putting something back in and expanding. They're actually expanding the power of the Justice Department. And look, anybody who thinks that the people who work at the Justice Department are these nonpartisan, objective, white lab coded individuals couldn't be more wrong. I worked for 4 years in the Civil Rights Division with the lawyers who would be doing this. They were some of the most radical, left-wing, ideological people I have ever encountered. Their one goal will be to do everything they can to help one particular political party, and it's not the Republican Party.
I mean, as a practical matter, though, Hans, it seems highly unlikely this bill is going to go anywhere further.
Well, I would hope so, except that, Lisa Murkowski, who often is a turncoat, unfortunately, in the U.S. Senate, 2 weeks ago expressed her support for this particular bill, as did Joe Manchin. So it actually might have a better chance of passing than H.R. 1S1.
You're right. It's not 1965, and no justification exists anymore for giving the federal government the ability to veto election laws and regulations that citizens and their elected representatives choose to implement in their respective states. I mean, I don't even think you have to be a Republican to believe in states' rights.
Well, yeah, I don't think so either. I would think state legislators in particular, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, ought to really resent the idea that they don't get to make the decision for their states on what the rules are affecting elections, and they ought to be mad about that.